at 12% interest. What are you going to do next month? Absolutely, right? And that's probably not what the seller wants. It's great that he gets 12%, right? Yes, for 1 month. Then he gets all his principal back, which is not the objective anyways. So at the time, 7% was actually pretty good, and I convinced him of that. But the interest rates went down to probably as low as 5.5%. On non-owner, high loan to value, I probably could have got 5.375, 5.5. So I told him that. And I said, I have to do something with this. So, guess what he did? He dropped the rate to 6%. I had asked for 5.5, he asked for 6. Now, my payment was $1,852. He was living on this. Right? This was part of his everyday monthly income. He was living off the rent of this, which was free and clear. Roughly this minus expenses, which was probably what? $1,400 a month? That's not right? That was his spendable cash, $1,400. Now he had this. So when I lowered his rate, it would have brought it to $1,348. So you see the little problem there? I couldn't sell him on that idea, so what did I do? Refinance?
Yeah, substitution of collateral.
Wasn't that sharp then. What did I do?
Raise the payments and cut the loan time.
I was a smart guy right there. I went from a 30-year loan to a 19-year loan, 16-year loan. My payment went to $1,725, but it went from 30 years to 16 years. So, by the way, let me write this somewhere. If you amortize this, if you do this times 30 years, 360 payments, it is $566,000. The new term is $386,000. I saved $179,000 in interest by making that phone call. I still have this property. Let me give you the new rents. Tell you why I wasn't such a...
So before, Mel, before you went and refinanced just because it was beneficial to you, without telling him, you made a phone call and say, hey, I'm thinking about refinancing, and I'd like you to restructure the debt. Is that basically what you said? Or
yes,
because you need to sell it to him. I mean, I probably would have just gone and say, hey, the rate is 5.5 on the streets. I'll go to Washington Mutual. I apply for the loan.
I called him because he was a nice guy, and I said, you know what, we've had this great relationship for a couple of years, and I know that when we bought it, part of it was your income. I have to refinance because it's way too expensive. And he's, I know. Then I said, you know, what do you want me to do? I can refinance it for 5%, whatever I told him. And he agreed. So I said, you know, the only way I can keep it this way, he said, I know you're going to get hit with the capital gains. The only way I can keep it this way is if you lower your rate. So he called me back, and he brought up 6%. I said, I was looking at 5.5%. You know, the truth is, I didn't want to refinance it. You know how hard it is to refinance a property? You guys have refinanced a property. It's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, it requires some work, but I would have did it to save $300, $400 a month. But instead, I just did it directly through him. So we drew up a new note, and you know, that's what we did.
So Mel, at 7%, how many years was that amortized?
30 years.
30 years, and then you went down to 15 years, right?
16 years.
16 years. Okay.
I think 15. I don't know why. I probably didn't do 15 because we were a year or two into it. I tried to make the payment as close, you know, and I came up with that, and he was good with that. It was close, so he's happy. And then didn't he just say something to you that if he had more properties, he'd sell it to me?
He'd sell to you.
Yeah. That was great because I talked to him, you know, not more than 6 or 7 times. Every Christmas he tries to sell me chocolates. He did that before. But I haven't talked to him in 3 or 4 years. But to hear him say that, that was great. So let me show you what the rents are today, thanks to Laura and Gina. Front unit now rents for $1,200. Middle unit $750, and rear unit $1,250, which equals $3,200. And yesterday I asked Laura what this was worth. That's a C number. Property, in my mind, is worth, what did I tell you? I forgot. $800,000. $800,000. Any questions?
You have property with that negative cash flow of about $425 a month.
Right.
Could you have gone into this deal with a view toward increasing the rent right away?
I probably did. I don't know. I'm sure that's the first thing we did was raise it $25, $50, whatever the market would support. I'm thinking back at this rent was probably low, but not real low.
So when you look at the MLS, they always say rent below market, there's upside potential.
Right.
And the question is, if there's potential, why don't you do it right now?
That's exactly the question. And they usually have some excuses. I know the tenants and I like them. And there generally is some upside, but you also risk the, yeah.
You're losing the tenant and having to rehab the unit to re-rent at a market rent.
Well, they say that if you're not losing tenants, you're not charging them.
That could be. I mean, that could be. I just know what it costs to rehab a unit. Let's take the first one. If these guys were to move, I don't even know the answer to this, but I'm asking Laura. If these guys were to move right now, what would it take to get it back, to put it back together and clean it up?
Usually 2,000.
Okay, what would that be? Paint?
Paint, carpet, clean.
Clean up.
That's it.
You replace the carpet.
If needed, or depends how old. If it's 2 years old.
That does not include any upgrades like, changing the cabinets or countertops out or windows.
How many months down would we be, Sean? How many months down would we be for tenant leaves?
About 2 months.
Okay, so what would we lose? We would lose
2,400.
2,400 plus 2,000. I think it's probably more. That's 4,800. At even $100 more a month, it would take us 4 years to recoup. I personally don't think. I think this is actually way at market, right? Otherwise, I think we'd be getting it. I think we'd aggressively go after it, but it would take us quite a bit to get it back. Now, here's where you would raise it to that, though, when you're going to sell it.
Yes.
Right? Before you sell it.
Before you sell it, you raise the rent.
You raise the rents. And then what do you put in the MLS? Upside potential.
Yes.
Rents can be raised. Well, that's, everybody rents, right? Whether it can or can't. Do you guys actually believe that to be true when it says rents can be raised? Do you actually know that to be fact? You don't know, right? You just, you don't know. So, okay, any questions on this deal?
So you're pulling out the equity of the property to do other things with it, right?
Actually, this one, because it's a private loan, I did not. Actually, I put a line of credit on it, and I use that in and out. Right now, it's paid off, the line of credit, but I still owe, I think I do have a loan balance in here. The balance today on this property is $187,000.
Could you have the seller do 100% financing?
Good you asked that. I've got an example in here of that too.
So what is it worth? It is worth 800?
I think it's worth at least 800. This is a big 3 units. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I screwed the whole story up. I'm sorry. Scratch everything I just said. Where did I mess up the thing here? It was for sale for more than 310. It was for sale for 340, 350. I apologize. This is what happened. Thank you for reminding me. Something you said triggered it. I don't even know you know this part, Laura. It was for sale for 350. I probably had it under contract at 350. And this is what happened. There was 2 meters, 2 electrical meters, 1 water meter, 2 gas meters on the property. So I didn't know why. You guys have a reason, have an idea why?
One unit may have not been permitted.
Yeah.
So I went to the city to check it out. And the city had it as 2 units. It had the plans, had everything. It had everything except the final on the 3rd unit. Because what it was a single family home in the front with a big lot in the back. 11,000 square feet. It's 55 by, what does that come out to? 200. He had a little single, well, it's a 2-bedroom single family in the front, nothing in the back. So what he did was he built a 3-unit with garages. He bought a 3-bedroom with garages, and then later he built a 1-bedroom in front of that. He never permitted that. He hooked the gas up to that because I think he had family living there at the time, so they never went further. He didn't even know, he says he didn't know he wasn't permitted. So when I told him that, I got the price dropped $40,000. Well, here's the great part. He said, all you got to do is get the final, because I showed him everything. He showed me the plans. I brought him all the permits. I said, we're missing the final.